Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm John.
And we're back. We are going to give away the book from last week, which is about Garden City. And the winner for last week was Kyle Hill, aka Agency. And get to us and let us know how you would like the book sent to you.
This week we covered a little bit of a different book, but a little fun read for a lot of reasons. But we covered Living with the Seal, and it was written by Jesse Itzler. So back up a year ago, I had never heard of Jesse Itzler before. Was at a conference, heard him speak, and was a phenomenal speaker, and learned a little bit more about him. So Jesse Itzler is, he looks like a homeless man. Sorry, Jesse, if you ever hear this, but he looks like a homeless man. But he is owner of the Atlanta Hawks, and he has just done a lot of crazy things. So he's an entrepreneur, has started several businesses, and one of them was NetJet was the company, and works with private jets and charters, and also was really instrumental in Zika water, I think is what it was.
Well, he did start off as a rapper.
Yes.
Yes, don't leave that out.
I wish I could remember his name. I think it was like White Chocolate or something.
I don't even think he said that in the book.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe not. But his original claim to fame was he was going to be a white rapper.
He wanted to be on MTV.
Yeah, he was actually for a while. He was on MTV. And so we'll give you a little bit of a pre-warning. As I was reminded again, there is some strong language in this book. So definitely don't listen to it in front of your kids. It's just a lot of, I don't think it's any vulgar at all, but it's just a lot of strong language from a guy talking. So just as a heads up. But a little bit about Jesse. He started his own company. He was a rapper, and really, I guess maybe this will be a good story to give you an idea of who Jesse Itzler is. He was trying to get into the rap game.
Yes.
Trying to develop his own mixtape. I literally think it was a cassette tape at the time. Long story short, he ends up calling a big label, saying he's the name of another famous rapper, Dana, and saying he works with him, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Person on the other line.
The secretary. Yeah.
Assumes that he's Dana, and he doesn't deny that he's not Dana.
She asks, "Oh, so you're Dana?"
Right.
And he's like,
and he goes, "Yep." Yeah. And sets up a meeting with the producer, and walks in for the next day, and walks in, has a seat in the guy's office, and the guy walks in and goes, "Oh, you're not Dana," and he's like, "Nope. But I'm here until Dana gets here." And then
he's on his way.
He's on his way.
Yeah.
He hands him a mixtape and ends up playing it for him, and the guy likes it, and they do a lot of stuff together in the future. But so that's a little bit about him. Jesse doesn't take no for an answer. He always pushes and pushes and just keeps going.
And he asks, like, "Who's your lawyer?" And he's like, "My dad is." And his dad was like a mechanic or something.
Yeah, or I think he was in the trades. I can't remember what he did.
So not a lawyer.
Yeah, maybe a plumber or something.
Yeah. And so he's like, "I'll figure it out."
So, but that's how he kind of lived his whole life, and now he just does a lot of extreme things. He's about, and we'll get into about pushing his limits, pushing his bounds. Like, for instance, I just found out in February he's part of, I forget what they call it, but it's a running challenge where you run the same amount of miles as the date. So, like, today's the 11th, so he ran 11 miles today. And every day they run the same amount of miles as the date, all the way up until the end of February. But that's the kind of stuff that he does. So
it's a good thing they picked February.
Yeah. I don't know if it's any worse, though.
But this year is it's leap year, so they get an extra day.
Even better. So let's do it.
Well,
just kidding. So easy, though. So he kind of starts off the book as the premise of the book is Jesse invites a Navy SEAL to come live with him and train him basically 24/7. He lives with him and just does a lot of crazy things. And so Joe kind of tell like the first story, the first time that Jesse kind of encountered the seal, we'll call him.
So I think it's called an ultra marathon, right? Where you run for 24 hours straight.
Yeah, so it's a form, one of the forms of an ultra.
Yeah, and it's 100 miles that they were going to run. And so Jesse goes with a team of guys. They have a group support system. They've got all the stuff to help them get through this. And then as they're getting ready for the race, getting all prepared with all their equipment, he sees this, big black guy, which was around them was not very common. So he definitely stood out, and he was just this big, muscular man. And he was sitting in like a lawn chair with some crackers and a bottle of water, and that was it. And no one else was there at the time, and that was very surprising to him, and he's like, no way this is going to happen. But at the end of it, he saw that, this man, which was David, being helped back to his vehicle with a woman, and which he found out that was his wife at the time, and that he just was wowed about that he could do that, and that
which is totally different than what's normal.
Right,
So
totally.
most guys that run an ultra are short, white
Skinny.
guys, super skinny, basically only eat plants, and this guy was 230 pounds at the time, and was just a big guy.
Definitely stood out.
Yeah, so ends up getting his phone number, ends up calling him and just saying, hey, I got this crazy idea. I want you to come live with me for 30 days. And it was like dead silence on the phone.
So, and nothing came back. And he was like, are you there?
and it ends up saying, on one condition, I think he said, if there's no limits,
everything I say
everything's
goes
on the table.
Yeah.
And everything I say goes. And Jesse ends up saying, sure.
Yeah.
and I think from that phone call, they set the date and everything. And I don't think they even talked to each other at all. Like, the seal never called Jesse or never touched base, couldn't get a hold of him until that day. He's supposed to show up at 0700. Jesse didn't know if he was going to get a ride from the airport or not. And doorbell rings at 0700 and Seal's there on the porch.
With the backpack.
Just with the backpack.
He's going to be there for a whole month, and he just shows up with a backpack.
And I think it's the middle of winter. I don't know if it's January. I think
it was
January.
December. No, it was December.
So, yeah.
So right when he gets there, he puts Jesse to work by doing pull-ups and just to establish a baseline. And I love it because they go through and they talk about the amazing amount of miles that they run. And I think like maybe 3 or 4 days into it, Seal is like, okay, this is just the starting. Now we're really going to get serious. And Jesse's like, that what?
And Jesse is not he's a very fit person. I mean, he's run, I think, 18 consecutive marathons. And
Definitely
I mean, he's a runner, he's an ultra marathoner. And
he doesn't do push-ups or pull-ups, sorry. So that the first time he had to do 100, right?
Yeah.
And Seal said, we are not leaving this gym until you do 100. And he's like, no. But he ended up doing it after he would do one, walk around the gym, do one, walk around the gym.
Yeah, and just repeat it until he had that 100 of them done. And but that's the whole idea, is that Jesse wanted to push himself and see, what he could take. He was so enthralled, I guess, by what David had done himself that he wanted to push himself a little bit further even. So
one story just popped in my mind. He was so excited that he had found this backpack, and Seal, who shows no emotion, brings this backpack to Jesse, all kind of excited, and he's like, "Man, this inflates to a
raft.
A raft. That way, if another September 11th comes and the whole city, shuts down the tunnels, the bridges, you can raft your way to New Jersey."
Yeah.
and Jesse's like, "What?" and shows his wife Sarah, and she's like, "We're gonna go down 30-some flights, walk a mile to the river, and row ourselves."
Yeah, which we didn't mention. Jesse's married to Sarah Blakesley, which is the founder of Spanx. So I'm sure all the ladies know that.
Yeah.
That brand, but that's who he's married to.
Yeah. And they had a boy at the time, one little guy.
Yeah.
So this is funny. So later in the month of December, Jesse talks about how they want to go up to their lake house, and Seal's like, oh, well, I need to go there first and check out the place. And, you know, Jesse's kind of just kind of learning Seal, and, you know, he's like, he's not going to stop him. So he's like, okay, go ahead. I'll have our driver, you know, go take you up there. So they go up there, and, you know, Seal finds a clipboard that Jesse didn't even know that they owned, and he, you know, takes this clipboard up there, and then while he's up there, what's the number? Well, he sees that there's like tons of windows, and he's like, that is not safe. So he wants them to put in bulletproof windows, which was
like $750,000.
Yes, and he's like, it is clearly the way to go.
It was like, you could do the first floor for like $350,000 or $400,000, but you could do the whole house for $750,000.
And then he's like, Rambo could be out there, and he couldn't get you as long as he didn't have a bazooka.
Yeah.
I love how he has to explain it that way. And then while he was up there, or one of the other times that Seal was up at that house, a plumber had, did it come by or did he call? I can't remember.
He came by.
Yeah,
Seal was there.
Yes.
And the plumber had to go make a repair.
Yes.
For something there.
Yes. I guess I started that wrong. So Jesse gets a phone call from the plumber, and he was like, you know, I did not Google your name and your net worth before I went to your house. I gave you the right estimate, and, you know, he kind of was very stern. He's like, you know, 20% off is all I could do. And Jesse's like, what? And he's like, okay, man, 30% off. That's all, you know, I gotta make a living. And then, I don't know, something else, and he hangs up, and Jesse's like, what just happened? And then talks to Seal, and Seal says that the plumber came by and did this ridiculous amount, and Seal told him that he had looked up the owners and was trying to take them for more money because he knew they were wealthy.
Yeah. So Jesse's like, I'm getting this plumber that's almost threatening suing me, you know, because of Seal wanting to put bulletproof windows and then interrogate my plumber that's on site.
Yeah. And I love one more story. So the driver that brought Seal up to the house gets kind of like hungry and thirsty in the middle of the night, so he walks down very quietly because he doesn't want to wake up Seal. You know, doesn't even turn on the light. Opens the fridge, and as he's like eating some cookies and drinking milk, he sets off the house alarm, and so it's very loud. And so this driver knows Seal. He's been, you know, seeing him for, you know, a couple weeks, and he's terrified that Seal's gonna come out and like do something bad. So he crawls underneath the table and starts screaming, "Seal, it's me, it's me!" And then so Seal calls Jesse saying that the alarm went off, and that he found the driver shaking underneath the table with spilled milk and cookie crumbs on
crumbs everywhere.
His face. I was like, oh man.
So another story up at the same lake house, different time. This was actually towards the end, so I think it was a 30-day period that Seal lived there with them in the house 24/7, and they had just finished. Jesse's feeling good at this point. He's running more mileage, faster. He's feeling stronger. So they just finished, I think, an 8-mile run, and they both get back, and I think they were down in a protein shake or a banana, and both looked at each other and said, man, we feel good. You know what this means? And they both nodded, and it meant that they were about to go for a dip out in the lake. Well, the lake was completely frozen over, and there was actually kids playing hockey on it. So, but then Sarah gives them the look like, that's not happening. You're not going out and doing that. So Jesse preoccupies Sarah, and Seal goes sneaking off. And Jesse says he looks out the window to see Seal taking a boulder, he calls as big as you can imagine, hunched all the way over, lifting it up and breaking the ice, trying to get through to the water. And all the guys stop playing hockey, and they're looking at this crazy guy trying to break through the ice. Finally he breaks through, and they both sneak down there and and just soak in the water basically,
Yeah.
and then run back up to the house and get warm, and then go back down back into the freezing lake like 2 or 3 times.
So during this whole month that Seal is at the house, Jesse's still doing a normal December's work of work, and they're having. And Seal comes with them to the office everywhere he goes. He actually goes. They go down to Alabama, I think, and Seal flies with them. So Jesse's in a meeting. It's going, it's good, and they're gonna have a break. So Jesse goes to his office and just is chilling for this break. But Seal tells him, he's like, I'm just not satisfied with the workout. He's like, I'm not. And Jesse's like, what do you mean?
He says, I got shortchanged this morning.
Yeah, he says, I got shortchanged. Yeah. And Jesse's like, I did everything you told me to. And he's like, well, I just didn't like it. So I need you to, get down and give me 100 push-ups.
Sit-ups.
100 sit-ups. And so Jesse, at a break in the middle of a meeting, just does it. 100 sit-ups, and then I think his secretary comes in, and before Jesse could even say anything, she's walking out. She's like, nope.
He's like dripping in sweat.
Yeah.
As soon as he gets done, time for the meeting to start again.
Yeah.
He's dripping sweat in the middle of the meeting. So I think one of the last stories, really almost in the book, talks about how, I think it was one of the last days where Jesse and Seal were in their house, and Jesse just happened to, I don't even think he knew. I think it was the maid or something ran up to him.
I think so, yeah.
And said, hey, you need to come outside and see this right now. So Jesse walks outside and he sees 2 younger guys with some tattoos on them that had just climbed over the hedges and were starting to walk towards the house. And I think one of them had a clipboard or something, and they were started telling the story how, like, hey, we just... we're meeting all the owners in the neighborhood. We just met with Usher, and Jesse's like, well, I know Usher, and he doesn't live in this neighborhood. And so he just really started getting the wrong vibes, and they kept saying, we need to talk to who owns this house. And Jesse's like, well, I don't own this house. He keeps saying that. And he's like, you know what? But the guy that does is inside, so let me go get him for you. So he turns around, walks inside, and sees Seals, and he goes and tells Seal what's going on. And he said Seal just looks out the window and gets a big smile on his face and walks out. And meanwhile, I think the guys kind of either figured out what was going on, or they started taking off, and Seal ends up chasing the guys down the street. And I don't know how much longer. Seal comes back and shows Jesse a picture and says, is this the guy?
Yeah.
And the guy's beet red, and Seal's like holding him up by his throat.
Yeah.
And telling him, I'm the owner that lives here,
And tells Jesse, I don't think they'll come back.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be seeing them around anymore. We spent a few minutes trying to figure out the best way to talk about this book, and it really is just, it's a lot of different stories that they experienced through this 30 days. And that's why we wanted to share several of the stories, just to kind of give you an idea of a little bit of what was going on. But they're all kind of centered around, there's several key points I think that we really took away from it, and one was that I took away was simplify. And Jesse talks about over and over how Seal shows up multiple times just in shorts and a t-shirt in the middle of winter, and I think usually like $50 cash on him, and that's it. That's the only thing he has on him. He never sees him eat very much. He doesn't see him buy anything other than bananas. And that's it. He said he just lives a very simple life and a very minimalistic life. And Jesse just talked about how obviously a very successful entrepreneur and business owner had a lot of stuff, but how he after that went through his clothes and just got rid of a whole bunch of stuff just to really simplify what was important to him in life and what he kept around him personally.
And one thing that stuck out to me was when Seal was talking to Jesse and said, when you think you have done all that you can do, like working out, or you really have only done 40% of what your body has, which has helped me, because recently I'm trying to work out. And when I say recently, I mean just for like 11 days. So I'm not a pro or anything, but when I get to the point where I'm like, no, I can't do this, that pops in my mind. I'm like, I've only done 40%. I can do more. So that's kind of nice.
And a lot of what they go through is on the physical side of things, but it's more than that too, because it's all mental. So you can apply it to any area of your life. Most of the time, when you feel like you can't take it anymore, that's usually like your 40% mark. You don't have a clue. And it talks about how Seal in multiple, even in that very first ultra, was running on broken legs or broken feet actually, and does it often, and finishes the races because it's a mental thing at the end of the day. Your mind shuts down when your body can give more, and usually you have more to give. And I think the last thing is there were multiple times in story after story where Seal would come to Jesse at 12:30 at night or 3:30 in the morning and say, hey, literally over his bed whispering, saying, wake up, we're going for a run in, what's that big park in New York?
Central Park?
Central Park. We're going to go, that's where they always ran. And it was consistently Seal telling Jesse, you're comfortable. You know, you have a comfortable life. You're too comfortable, and that's a dangerous place to be because you get used to the people around you. You get used to your surroundings and the same thing over and over, and you get in a rut. And that's really why Jesse did want this.
Right.
Why he asked Seal to come and live with him is so he could get out of that comfort zone of what he was always used to, and just how important it is to learn new things, try new things, push yourself farther, harder than what you know, and not live in that comfort zone that we all want. We think we want to live in that comfort zone, but really we don't. And really that's not what fulfills us at the end of the day anyway.
I agree. It's when we get out of our comfort zone when we see the growth. Just like Jesse at the end of it, he was so confident that he had to make himself get out of that comfort of being confident, and he jumped into an ice lake.
Yeah. So it's a very good read. It's a fun read. Jesse's a very good storyteller. Very easy to listen to. So if you're ever looking for something that's a little bit inspirational, a little bit motivational, but also there's some really funny stories in there. Seal also has a book. Maybe we'll do that later, but talking more about him specifically and his background, titled Can't Hurt Me. But yeah, Jesse's book was a very good book, Living with the Seal. And hope you enjoy it. Maybe something there stuck out to you or just a funny story. But same thing as last week. If you would, comment, put your name or what you liked, didn't like, thumbs up, or anything like that. We'd love to get the book to you. And hope you enjoyed it.